Namaswati form naturally graceful, his beauty put to shame. Millions of cupids tied with the red legs, his lotus feet, whichever attracted the bee like mind of the sage, looked most lovely. His sackers in the charming yellow loincloth outshone the rising sun as well as the lightning. The girdle round his waist, together with the sweet sounding small bells, was soul and chanting. His long arms were adorned with beautiful ornaments. The yellow sackers that greatly enhanced his charms, while the ring on his finger would ravish all heart. Beautified with all sort of wedding adornments, he looked most charming. His broad chest was adorned with appropriate ornaments. He had a yellow scarf with fingers of pearls and gems slung partially under his right armpit and partially across his left shoulder. He had a pair of lotus like eyes and beautiful pendants dangling from the lobes of his ears. While his countenance was a storehouse of all comeliness, he had lovely eyebrows and a charming nose. Near the sacred's mark on his forehead was an abode of loveliness, and his head was adorned with a beautiful wedding crown, which had a precious pearls and gems strung together and woven into it. Precious gems had been strung together and woven into the lovely wedding crown, and each of his limbs ravished the heart at the sight of the bridegroom Sri Rama. The women of the city, as well as pretty celestial ladies, all tore blades of grass in order to avoid the evil eyes. After scattering about his gems, raiments, and ornaments, they waved light around him and sang festal songs. The gods rained down flowers while bards, pancratists, and apodists uttered his praises. Married women whose husbands were alive happily brought the brides and bridegroom to the apartment reserved for the tutelary deities, and with festal songs they most lovingly began to perform customary rites. Goddess Gauri herself taught Rama how to offer a morsel of food to Sita. Sharda urged Sita to do likewise with Rama. The whole Gynecum was absorbed in the delight of merrymaking. Everyone enjoyed the fruit of her birth. In the gems on her head, Janki saw the reflection of Sri Rama, the repository of beauty. Hence, she dared not move her arm or eye to fear or losing sight of him. The rapture and love that characterized the gaiety and mirth of the occasion surpassed all telling. Sita's companions alone knew them. They escorted all the four charming couple to the palace, assigning to King Dasharatha and his party. At that moment, blessings might be heard on all sides, and there was great exultation in the city as well as in the heavens. Everyone exclaimed with delighted heart, "Long live the four lovely couples!" Great yogis, siddhas, eminent sages, and the divinities sounded their cattle drums on beholding the Lord and raining down flowers and crying, "Victory, victory, victory!" They gladly returned each to his own realms. Then all the four princes with their brides approached their father. It appeared at that time as if the belonging of the bridegroom party overflowed with beauty, felicity, and joy. Then there was a banquet with rich varieties of dishes, to which Janka invited all the members of the bridegroom party. Carpet of the incomparable beauty were spread on the way as King Dashratha sailed forth with his sons. The feet of all were reverently washed, and then they were seated on wooden seats according to their rank. Janka lay at the feet of Dashratha, king of Ayodhya. His courtesy and affection were past telling. He then bathed Sri Rama's lotus feet that are enshrined in the lotus-like heart of Shiva. Similarly, he washed with his own hands the feet of the other three brothers, also treating them on a par with Sri Rama. King Janka assigned an appropriate seat to each guest and sent for all the cook for service. Leaves joined together so as to serve for plates were set before the guest with due reverence. Leaves which were made of precious stones and had been joined with gold pins. Clever and the polite cook passed around, and in a thrice they served all with curry and boiled rice mixed with clarified butter extracted from cow's milk, all of which were pleasing and delicious and had been cooked with purity. Talking the five initial morsels as an oblations for the five vital years, the guests commenced dining and were enraptured to hear songs full of raillery, confection of various kinds, sweet as ambrosia, and more delicious than one could describe, were served to them. Expert cook then began to serve a variety of seasons articles, which were too numerous to be named. Of the four category of food mentioned in the scriptures, that which can be directly swallowed, that which must be masticated before it can be gulped, that which can be licked with the tongue, and that which can be sucked, each comprising and that which can be sucked, each comprising an indescribable variety of dishes. Similarly, there were seasoned dishes of the various kinds, having six different flavors, each flavor being exhibited in numberless variety. As the dinner was in progress, women railed in melodious strain at man and woman, both mentioning each by name. Even raillery at an opportune time is agreeable and welcome. King Dasharatha and his whole party felt amused to hear it. In this way, the whole party dined, and in the end, they were all reverently supplied with water to rise their mouth with. Offering betel leaves in due forms, Janka paid his homage to King Dasharatha and his company, and the crown of all monarchs Dasharatha retired to his own apartments with a cheerful heart. Every day there was a new festival in the city. Days and night passed like a moment. The jewel of King Dasharatha woke up at very early hour, and ma- mendicants began to sing his praises. As he gazed upon the princess with their beautiful bride, the rapture of his soul was beyond all telling. Having finished his morning routine, he called on his guru with a heart full of exclusions and love, making obeisance to him and paying him his homage. The king with joined palm addressed him in a voice steeped as it were in nectar. Listen, O chief of Sikh, by your grace I have realized all my ambition today. By summoning all the Brahmins, O holy sir, present them with cows adorned in every way. And hearing these words, the preceptor applauded the king and then sent for the troops of Sikhs. Then came Then came Vamadeva, the celestial Sikh, Narada, Valmiki, Jabeli, Vishwamitra, and host of other great Sikhs, given to austerities. What do you mean by austerities? Austerities, austerities means austerities. Shri Ram, 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 Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Austerity means austerity. संयम कठोरता आप आडंबरहीनता संयम कठोरता आडंबरहीन कठोरता austerities. Then came Vamadeva, the celestial Sikhs, Narada, Valmiki, Jabali, Vishwamitra, and host of great Sikhs given to the austerities, austerities, given to the austerities, austerities. The king threw himself upon the ground before them all and worshipping them with love offered them seat of honor. Next he sent for the 4 lakhs of cow, all as gentle as beautiful as the cow of plenty, and adoring them all in every possible way, he gladly bestowed them upon the Brahmans. The king supplicated them in many ways and said, "It is only today that I have attained the fruit of my existence. The delight of the solar race was glad to receive their blessings, and then sent for the beggars and bestowed on them, according to their liking, gold, wearing apparel, jewels, horses, elephants, and the carrots, singing the king's praises and saying, "Glory, glory, all glory to the Lord of solar race." They all went away in this way. The rejoicing in connection with Sri Rama's wedding was more than 1,000-mouthed serpent king could tell. Again and again the king bowed his head at the feet of Kaushik and said, "All this joy, O chief of Sikh, is a gift of your gracious look." King Dasharatha extolled in every way Janka's affection, amiability, affluences, and doing. Every morning the king of Ayodhya asked leave to return home, but each time Janka would lovingly detain him. The royal guest received greater and enhanced attentions from day to day and was entertained in thousands ways each day. The city witnessed a new rejoicing and festivity every day. No one liked the Shraddha's departure. In this way, a number of days passed, as though members of the bridegroom party were tied with cord of love. The Sheikh Kaushika and Satananda then called on King Videha and advised him, saying, "Now you must let the Shraddha go, even though you may not be able to part with him." "Out of love, very well, my lord," replied the king, and sent for his ministers, who came and bowed their heads, saying, "May you be victorious, may you live long." The king of Ayodhya longed to depart, make this known in the Gynecum. At these words, the minstrels, Brahmins, coteries, as well as king himself were overwhelmed with emotion. When the people of the city heard that the bridegroom party was leaving, they anxiously asked one another if it were a fact. When they learned that the departure of the guest was certain, they were all sad in the same way as lotuses get shriveled up in the evening. Provisions of the various kinds were sent to all those places where the bridegroom party had halted while coming from Ayodhya. Dry fruits and confections of all kinds and other articles of food, too numerous to be mentioned, were sent by Janka on the back of oxen and through numberless porters, along with a number of beautiful bed sheets. He also sent 1 lakh horses at the 25,000 carrots, all decorated from top to bottom, 10,000 adorned elephant in red that put to shame the elephants gardening the 8 quarters, beside cart loads of gold, wearing apparels and jewels, and even so sheep, buffaloes, cows, and many other articles of various kinds. In this way, King Videha gave once more a dowry which was immeasurable and beyond all telling, and before which the wealth possessed by the lord of the different worlds looked small. Having got all the equipage arranged in the order mentioned above, Janka had everything dispatched to Ayodhya. When the queen heard that the bridegroom party was about to start, they all felt miserable, even as fish when faced with shortage of water. Again and again they took Sita in their lap and blessed and exhorted her in the following words: "May you be ever beloved to your Lord, and may you live long with him. This is our blessing. Serve the parents of your husbands and other elders, and do the bidding of your Lord according to his pleasures." In their access of love, Sita's clever companions too taught her the duties of the housewife in soft accents. The queens politely admonished all the other princes too, and clasped them to their bosom again and again. And as the mothers embraced his daughters time and again, they exclaimed, "Why did Brahma ever create a woman?" That very moment did Rama, the chief of Suval race, gladly proceeded along with his brothers to Janka's palace to take the brides along with them. The people of the city, both men and women, ran to see the four brothers, who were naturally lovely. Said one, "They intend leaving today. King Videha had made all arrangements for their farewell, so let your eye drink in their beauty. The four princes have been our most welcome guests. Who knows, friends, what virtuous deed we have performed in return for which Providence has unexpectedly brought them before our eyes, even as a dying man should stumble on nectar, or he who has been starving all his life should be able to discover a wish shielding tree, or as one of the damned in hell should attend to the abode of Sri Hari. Even so, have we have blessed with their sight. Gaze on Sri Rama's beauty and treasure. It is your heart. Let your mind fondly cherish his image, even as a serpent loved the gems in his hood. Thus delighting the eye of all, the four princes went to the royal palace. The ladies of the Gynecum were transported with joy to behold the four brothers, who were ocean of beauty as it were, and the mother-in-law in their ecstatic mood sacred gifts in the wave light about the bridegroom. Greatly moved at the sight of Sri Rama's beauty, they affectionately fell at his feet again and again, their heart being wrapped in love. The feeling of shyness had bid them adieu. How could their natural affection for their son-in-law be described? After anointing the body of Sri Rama and his brother with urgent, they were given a bath and were most lovingly entertained with dishes containing the six flavors. Finding it a suitable opportunity, Sri Rama spoke in accent full of amiability, affection, and modesty. Our royal father intend leaving for Ayodhya and has sent us here to take leave of you. Therefore, mother, grant us permission with a cheerful mind. Never regard us with affection as your own children. The ladies of the Gynecum were distressed to hear these words. The mother-in-law were too overwhelmed with emotion to speak a word. They clasped all the princes to their bosoms, and while giving them to their lord, made humble submission to them. With humble submission, Queen Sunaina committed Sita to Rama, and with joined palm prayed again and again, I offer myself as sacrifice to you, my all-wise darling. You know what passed in the mind of all. May you know that Sita is dear as life itself to the whole family, nay, to the entire population of the city, much more to me and to her royal father. Therefore, considering her meekness and affection, Lord of Tulsi, treat her as your maid servant. You have your desires ever fulfilled. You are the creased veil of the wise, and it is love alone that attract you. You perceive only the good points of your devotee. You eradicate their weakness and are an abode of mercy, Rama. So saying, the queen remained clinging to his feet. It seemed as if her speech had been lost in quick stand of love. On hearing her fine speech, which was full of affection, Sri Rama honored his mother-in-law in ways more than once. While seeking her permission with joint palm, he made obeisance to her again and again. Having received her blessing, the Lord of Raghu bowed his head once more and then departed with his brother, treasuring up in their heart Sri Rama lovely and the beautiful images. All the queen were overcome with emotion. Then recovering themselves, they called their daughters and embraced them again and again. They escorted them to some distance and then embraced them once more. The love on both sides swelled to a considerable extent. While meeting their daughters again and again, they were parted by the companions of the princes. Even a cow who has just brought forth a calf may be parted from the latter. All men and women, including the companions of the princes and the ladies of the Gynecum, were overpowered with emotion. It seemed as if the pathos and parting of lovers have taken up their abode in the capital of Videha. The parrots and manas, who had been reared by Princess Janki and having been kept in cage of gold, had been taught to speak, cried in distress, "Where is the Videha's daughter?" On hearing their wail, who would have the patience to stand aside? And birds and beasts were distressed in this way. How can one depict the feeling of the human being? Then came King Janka with his younger brother. Due to excess of emotion, tears rushed to his eyes. Although he was reputed to be the man of supreme dispassion, his strength of mind took leave of him the moment he gazed on Sita. The king clasped Janki to his bosoms, and the great embankment of wisdom toppled down. All his wise counselors admonished him, and realizing that it was no occasion for the wailing, the king recovered himself again and again. He pressed his daughter to his bosom and ordered beautiful and well-equipped palki to be bought. The whole family was overwhelmed with emotion, yet perceiving that the auspicious moment had arrived, the king invoked Lord Ganesha and his consort Siddhi and held the princes to ascend the palkis. King Janka admonished his daughter in various ways. Admonished means admonished, 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 admonished in Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. To tell some family that you not approve something she has done. Datna admonished, Datna Fatkana, proof for something that you have done. डांटना फटकारना सतर्क कर देना strongly advise somebody to do something, it is called admonished. फटकारना सतर्क कर देना admonished. डांट का फटकारना सतर्क कर देना admonished. डांटना फटकारना सतर्क कर देना admonished. King Dashratha sent to all the Brahmins and seated them with the gifts. King Janka admonished his daughter, डांटना फटकारना और admonished means डांटना फटकारना और सतर्क कर देना. Admonished in various way, more than one, and instructed them the duties of the woman as well as the family customs. He bestowed upon Sita a good many men servants and the maid servants who had been trusted and favorite attendants. As she proceeded on her journey, the citizens felt miserable, as good omens, which were all fountain of blessings, appeared, accompanied by the crowd of the Brahmins and his counselors. The king himself followed his daughter to escort them. When it was found that the time of departure had come, music began to play, and the members of the bridegroom party made ready their carrot, elephants, and horses. King Dashratha sent to all the Brahmins and seated them with gifts and courtesy. The king placed the dust of their lotus feet on their head and was glad to receive their benedictions. Benediction means benedictions. Benedictions. Benediction means benedictions. Benedictions. Benedictions means benedictions. 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 The utterance of blessings, especially at the end of religious service. The utterance of blessings, especially end of the religious service. The utterance of blessings, the services which congregate in the blessed with the blessings, in religious service. King Jain admonished, as she proceeded her journey, the citizens felt miserable, while good omens, which were all fountain of blessings, appeared, accompanied by a crowd of Brahmins and his counselors. The king himself followed his daughters to escort them. When it was found that the time of departure had come, music began to play, and the members of the bridegroom party made ready their carrots, elephants, and horses. King Dashratha sent to all the Brahmins and seated them with gifts and the courtesy. The king placed the dust of their lotus feet on their head and was glad to receive their benediction. Invoking the elephant-headed Ganesha, he sent out of his journey when many good omens, which were the root of felicity, occurred. The god gladly rained on flowers and heavenly knives, saying, as the Lord of Ayodhya joyfully set forth his capital amidst the clash of the cattle drum. King Dashratha politely persuaded the respectable citizens to retire, and having reverently called all the mendicants. He bestowed on them ornaments and cloth, as well as horses and elephants, and satiating them with love, he made them all self-supporting, glorifying the king again and again. They all returned with Sri Rama in their heart. The Lord of Ayodhya importuned King Janaka over and over again, yet out of affection for his relatives, the latter would not turn back. Once more, King Dasharatha addressed him in polite terms. I beg you to turn back, O king. You have already come for Enosh. At last, King Dasharatha, you have come already come for Enosh. Enosh means Enosh. Enosh means Enosh means Enosh. Enosh. Enosh means Enosh. So now define Enosh. Definition of Enosh. Enosh. Enosh means Enosh. Enosh. Old Testament of son of Seth. Different. Enosh. 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 King Dasharatha politely pursued the respectable city to retire, and having differently called all the mendicants, bestowed them ornaments and clothes, as well as horses and elephants, and satiating them with love, he made them all self-supporting, glorifying the king again and again. They all returned with Shri Rama in their heart. The Lord of Ayodhya importunate King Janaka over and over again, but out of affection for his relative, the latter would not turn back. Once more, King Dasharatha addressed him in polite terms. I beg you to turn back, O king. You have already come for Enosh. At least King Dasharatha got down from his carrots and remained standing, while his eyes overflowed with torrent of love. Then spoke King Vidya with joint palms and in accents imbued with the nectar of love. How and in what words should I make my supplication to you? You have conferred such high honor on me, O great king. The king of Kaushala showed every respect to the father of the bride and his relative Janaka. The embrace in which they held each other was characterized by utmost humility, and their heart could not contain the love they felt. King Janka bowed his head to the throng of sages and received blessings from them all. Next, he reverently embraced his son-in-law. The four brothers, each a mine of beauty, amiability, and goodness, joined his graceful lotus hands. He spoke in the accent begotten of love, as it were. How can I extol you, O Rama, supporting you as you do in the heart of Sage, as well as the great Lord Shiva, like a swan in the Mansarovar lake, that for whose sake yogis, those given the contemplation, practice yoga, contemplation, renouncing anger, infatuation, the feeling of mume and pride, the all pervading Brahma, who is imperceptible and imperishable, the embodiment of the consciousness and bliss, attributeless and simultaneously possessing divine quality, who is beyond the ken of speech and mind, who is past of all speculation but is only inferred by all, and who is the same at all time. The source of all joy has appeared before my eyes. Everything is easy of access in this world to a living being when God is propitious. You have exalted me in every way and accepted me as your own servant. If there were 10,000 Shardas and Sheshas, as if they were to count for millions of kalpas, the tale of my good fortune, I tell you, and the record of your virtue could not be exhausted. O Lord of Raghu, I make bold to say something on the strength of my conviction that you are pleased with the slightest devotion. I repeatedly beseech you with joint palm that my mind may never be deluded into deserting your feet. And hearing these polite words saturated with love, Sri Rama, who had all his desires fulfilled, felt gratified, who had all his desire with the greatest courtesy. The latter honored his father-in-law, treating him on par with his own father Kaushika or Vashishta. The king then humbly approached Partha and embracing him with affection gave him his blessings. Next, the king embraced and blessed Lakshmana and Ripusudana. Overpowered with emotion, they bowed their head to one another again and again, paying his respective compliments to Jankas again and again. The Lord of Raghu set out on his journey with his three brothers. Janka approached Kaushika, clasped his feet, and put the dust of the same on his head and eyes. He said, "Listen, O Lord of Sages, to him who has been blessed with your sight. Nothing is unattainable. Such is my marriage party conviction. The joy and the bright renown which the regional lords of the universe long to have, but feet too diffident to expect. Such a joy and glory had been brought within my reach, and all achievements follow on seeing you." In these words, King Janka made humble submission to Vishwamitra, bowing his head again and again, and returned after receiving his blessings. The people started on his return journey to the sound of cattle drum. All the sections, both big and small, were transported with joy. Men and women of the village, as they gazed on Sri Rama, felt gratified on realizing the object of their eyes. Halting and convenient stage in course of their journey and gladdening the people of the roadside, the marriage procession approached Ayodhya on a Sakar's day. Kettledrum was beaten and good tabor sounded, accompanied by blast of the sucked and the conches and the neighing of horses and trampling of elephants. Similarly, there was a clash of cymbals and drums, while clarinets played sweet tunes. The citizens were all delighted to hear the processions coming. The hair of their body stood erect. They all decorated their own beautiful houses as well as the market, streets, squares, and gates of the city. All the lanes were watered with the perfume. Here and there, festal squares were filled in with elegant devices. The bazaars was beautified beyond all description with festal arches, flags, banners, and canopies. Trees of the Arcana nut, the plantain, the mango, the bukala, the kadamba, and the tamla were transplanted along with their fruit. The beautiful trees thus planted touches the ground on account of their being laden with fruit. They had basin of precious stone constructed around them with exquisite skill. Festal vases of the various kinds were ranged in order in every house. Brahma and the other gods were filled with envy to see the birthplace of the Sri Rama, the priest of Raghu. The king of palace looked very charming on that occasion. Its decoration captivated the heart of Cupid himself. It looked as if the auspicious woman and loveliness, affluences and the mystic power, joys and the selling, prosperity and all kinds of rejoicing had assumed a naturally beautiful form and taken their abode in the palace of King Dashratha. Tell me who would not feel tempted to have a look at Sri Rama and Videha's daughter. Married women whose husbands were alive sailed forth in troops, each eclipsing love's consort by her beauty. They all carried articles of good omens and were equipped with lights for waving round the bridegroom. As as they moved along, singing all the way, it appeared as if the goddess Bharti, the goddess of speech, had appeared in so many forms. The king's palace was full of hilarious tumblet. The joy of occasion was ineffable. Kaushalya and other mothers of the Sri Rama were so overwhelmed with emotion that they forget their own body. After worshipping Lord Ganesha and the slayer of the demon Tripura, they bestowed numerous gifts upon the Brahmins and were supremely delighted as an utterly indigent man who had attained the four great prizes of life. All the mothers were so overcome with joy and rapture that their feet refused to walk, and all their limbs began to drop as it were, full of intense longing for the sight of Sri Rama. They began to get everything ready for the reception of their son. Music of the every kind started playing, while Sumitra gladly got together articles of the good omens, such as turmeric blades or the trua grass, curds, ordinarily leaves, flowers, betel leaves, and cronuts, auspicious roots, unbroken rice, sprouts of barley, goronka, parched paddy, and lovely bosoms of the basil plants. Exceedingly charming gold vases painted with various colors look like nests built by Cupid's own birds. A specious perfume defies all description. In this way, all the queens prepared all sort of the auspicious articles. They got ready row of lights arranged in various devices for waving round their sons, and with a cheerful heart sing melodious festal strains, carrying in their lotus hands salvers of gold laden with articles of the good omen. The queen mothers proceeded joyfully to greet their sons ceremoniously, every limb of their body throbbing with emotion. The sky became dark with the fumes of burning incense, as though overhung with the fast gathering cloud of the month of Shravana. The god rained down wreath of flowers from the tree of paradise, which looked like rows of herons in their graceful flight. Lovely festoons made of jewel looked like rainbow appearing in a row. Charming and volatile ladies appearing on housetops as quickly or disappearing as realities look like flashes of the lightning. The beat of the drum resembled the crash of thunder, while beggars were as clamorous as chatka birds, frogs, and peacocks. The gods poured down showers in the form of sacred perfume, which gladdened the crop in the form of all the citizens. Perceiving that the propitious hour had arrived, the preceptor Vasishtha gave the word, and the jewel of Raghuresh, King Dasharatha, gladly entered the city with all his followers, fixing his minds on Bhagwan Shambhu, Goddess Parvati, and their son Lord Ganesha. Good omens manifested themselves, and the gods rained down flowers to the beat of the drums, while celestial dames danced for joy, singing melodious simple songs. Bards, minstrels, rhapsodists, and the skilled dancers chanted the glory of him, Sri Rama, who illuminates all the three words, auspicious, hilary sounds, and the sacred and melodious chanting of the Vedas were heard in all the 10 directions. Musical instruments of all kinds began to play. Gods in heaven and men in the city were enraptured alike. Members of the bridegroom party looked smart beyond description. They were highly delighted and could not contain themselves for joy. The people of Ayodhya then greeted the king and were gladdened at the very sight of Sri Rama. They scattered about him jewels and vestments. Their eyes were full of tears, and the body thrilled over. The women of the city gladly waved light around his head and rejoiced to see the four noble princes. They were all the more gratified, and they lifted the curtains of the beautiful palkis and beheld the brides. Thus gladdening the heart of all, they arrived at the entrance of the royal palace. The delighted mothers waved light over the princes and their brides. They waved lights again and again. The love and rapture which they felt in their heart was beyond all words. They scattered about their son and daughter in law ornaments, jewels, and costumes of the various kinds, and numberless other articles. The queen mothers were enraptured to behold their four sons along with their brides. As they gazed again and again on the beauty of Sita and Rama, they felt delighted and regarded the object of their life in this world as realized. The queen mother companion, as they gazed on Sita's countenance over and over again, sang and extolled their good fortune. Moment after moment, the god rained down flowers, danced and sang, and offered their homage. Seeing the four charming couples. Goddess Sharda ransacked all her stock of similes, but her choices fell on none. They appeared too trivial. She therefore stood gazing with unwinking eyes, enchanting with their beauty. After performing the rites prescribed by the Vedas and the family usage, the queen mothers waved like over all the princes and their brides and conducted them to the palace, offering water to them as a mark of respect and spreading carpets along the way. There were four exquisitely beautiful thrones which had been fashioned by Cupid with his own hands, as it were. The queen mothers seated the brides and the bridegroom on them and reverently leave their holy feet. They then worshipped the blessed couples in accordance with the Vedic rituals by offering them incense, light, and oblations of food. They passed light around them again and again and waved beautiful fans and chauris over their heads. Yes, scattered offering of the various kinds about them. The mothers were as full of exclusion as yogi who has realized the highest truth, or as a lifelong chronic who has been able to lay his hands on nectar, or as a born pauper who has stumbled on a philosopher's stones, or as a blind man who has regained a good vision, or as a dumb fellow whose tongue has been transfused with the eloquency of Sharda, the goddess of speech, or even as a hero who has triumphed in battle. The mother derived joy millions of times greater than the joy mentioned above, for in their case it was the delighter of Raghu Race himself who had returned home with his brothers duly married. As the mothers performed the traditional rites, the brides and their grooms felt shy, and Sri Rama smiled within himself on perceiving the Akatsuan merriment of the occasions. The mother gratefully worshipped the gods and men with due ceremony, for all the craving of their heart had been satisfied. Going to all, they begged as a boon and the welfare of Rama and his brother. The gods conferred their blessings all unseen, and the mother gladly received them by spreading the end of their garment. The king sent for those who had joined the marriage party and gave them vehicles wearing imperial jewels and ornaments. Having received the king permissions and enshrining Sri Rama's images in their heart, they joyfully returned each of their own house. All the men and women of the city were invested with garments and jewels, and there was jubilant music in every home. The king, in his exulations, gave whatever the mendicants asked for. Every attendant and every musician was sated with gifts and kind attention. They all saluted and invoked blessings upon the king and sang his praises, and thereafter the king, accompanied by their preceptors and other Brahmins, proceeded to the palace. Under Vashishta's directions, he reverently performed all the ceremonies prescribed either by the usage or by the Vedas. The queen, on seeing a crowd of Brahmins, deemed themselves most fortunate, and all rose to greet them. They laved the feet of the holy ones and helped them all perform their ablutions, while the king duly worshipped and entertained them at meal. Overwhelmed with the host civilities, under Vishishta's direction, he reverently performed all the ceremonies prescribed either by the usage or by the Vedas. Queen, on seeing the crowd of Brahmins, deemed themselves most fortunate, rose in they leave the feet of the holy ones and helped them all perform their ablutions, while the king duly worshipped and entertained them at meal. Overwhelmed with the host's civilities, gifts, and love, they departed glad of heart, invoking blessings on him. The Gadi's son Vishwamitra, he paid homage in various ways and said, "My lord, there is no one so blessed as I am." The king lavished the praises on him, and with his queen took the dust off his feet. He assigned the sage a fine quarter in his own palace. Uh, the king lavished his praises on him the Sanvisha palace, while the king and his whole Gynecum kept a vigilant eye on his wants, even though unexpressed. Again, he adorned the lotus feet of his preceptor Vishita and made humble submission to him with great affection in his heart. All the princes with their brides and the king with their queens bowed to the preceptor's feet again and again, while the great Sheikh invoked blessings on them all. With his heart overflowing with love, he made entreaties to gurus and placed his sons and all his wealth before him. The great sage, however, asked for and accepted only his customary due as a family priest for the ceremonial occasion and blessed him in profusion. And with the image of Sita and Rama installed in his heart, he gladly proceeded to his own residence. The king then summoned all the Brahman dames and invested them with beautiful robes and ornaments. He next sent for the married women of the city whose husbands were alive and whose thought born in Ayodhya were married elsewhere and presented them with garments of their liking. All those who were entitled to receive gifts and presented on ceremonial occasion received their due from the jail of the king, who rewarded them according to their choice. He rewarded them, and the king duly honored those guests who he regarded as worthy of affection and adoration. The god who witnessed Sri Rama's wedding rained down flowers while applauding the jubilation, and with beat of the drum the celestial glory proceeded each to his abode, talking to one another Sri Rama glory with their heart overflowing with love. Having shown everyone all possible honor, the king, whose heart was overbrimming with joy, visited the private apartment and beheld the princes with their brides. He gladly took the boys in the arms and experienced a thrill of joy which nobody could tell. Similarly, he affectionately seated the brides in their lap and fondled them again and again with heart full of rapture. The ladies of the Gynecum were delighted to behold this spectacle. The heart of everyone became the abode of joy. The king related how the wedding had taken place, and everyone was delighted to hear the account. The goddess goodness, amiability, nobility, loving nature, and the splendid wealth of the king Janka were extolled by the king Dashratha in a variety of ways, even as the rapodist would do, and the queen were enraptured to hear the record of his doing. After bathing with his sons, the king called the Brahmans, the preceptor, and his own kinsmen, and having entertained them at meal, feasted himself on variety of dishes till a couple of hours of night passed. Lovely women sang joyfully songs, and the night became a source of delight and soul enhancing. After raising their mouth, the king and his party were all given betel leaves and adorned with garlands and sandal paste, etc. They looked most charming. Looking once more the king, the Sri Rama, and having received their permissions, they proceeded each of his own house, going there had the love and the rapture, merriments and the magnanimity, prosperity, splendid, and the loveliness that manifested there were more than could be told by 100 Shardas and Shesha, Vedas and Brahman, Shivas and Ganeshas. How then can I describe them at length any more than an earthy worm could support the globe on its head? The king then summons the queen, and showing every honor, honor to them all, admonished them in gentle tone. The brides are yet damsels and have come to a strange house, therefore take care of them as highly protect the eyes. The boys are tired and feeling drowsy. Go and put them to bed. So saying, he retired to his own bedroom with his mind fixed on Sri Rama's feet. Having the sweet and the lovely words of the king, the queens made ready bejeweled bed of gods and furnished them with many a rich covering, soft and wise as the froth of the cow's milk, the pillows more charming than word can tell. The bed chambers made of precious stones was decked with garlands and supplied with the perfumed lamps consisting of bright gems and canopy lovely beyond words. He alone who saw it could not know what it was like. Having thus prepared a number of fine beds of the queen took up Sri Rama lovingly laid him down upon on of them. On being repeatedly asked by Sri Rama his brothers to retire each of his own bed. As the mother gazed on the swarthy limbs of Sri Rama, so soft and attractive, they all exclaimed in loving accents, "How did you manage, dear child, to kill the most dreadful demon Statka while on your way to the forest?" How were you able to stay those monster giants, the wicked Marika and Shambhu, Subahu, and their followers who were formidable warriors and counted none before them in battle? My darling, may God bless you. It was through the grace of the sage Vishwamitra alone that God kept away a number of calamities from you. Even while you and your brother Lakshmana guarded the sacrifice, you were initiated into the sacred road. At the mere touch of the dust from your feet, the hermit's wife Ahilya attained salvations, and your glory filled the whole universe. In this assembly of princes, you broke Shiva's bow. Hard enough it was to was as a tortoise shell or adamant of rock. You gained the glory of having triumphed over the world and won the hand of the Janaka's daughter and the returns home after marrying all your brothers. All your actions have been superhuman and were accomplished only by the grace of the sage Kaushika. Our birth into the world has become fruit today as we now behold, dear child, your moon-like face. Our prayer is that the number of days that have been spent without seeing you may not be reckoned by the Creator at all. Sri Rama gratified all his mothers by addressing sweet and the polite words to them and fixing his thought on the feet of Lord Shambhu, his preceptor Vashishta and Vishwamitra and the Brahmas in general. He closed his eyes in order to sleep. Even during sleep, his most charming countenance gleamed as a red lotus half closed at eventide. In every house, women kept vigil and railed at one another in auspicious strain. The queens said to one another, "See, friends, how resplendent the city is, and how splendid the night." The mother-in-law then slept with the lovely brides and folded in their arms, even as the serpents would clasp to their bosom the gems from their hood. At the holy hour before dawn, the Lord awoke, and the cock commenced their beautiful crowing. The apodist and the genealogist sang his praises, while the citizens flocked to the gate to make their obeisance. Shri Ram, Shri Ram. The four brothers saluted the Brahmins and God as well as their preceptors and the parents and were glad to receive their benedictions. The mother reverently gazed on their countess as the princes repaired to the gate with the king. Through pure in themselves, the four brothers performed all the purification acts such as evacuating the balls, cleansing the private and the hands with waters and clay, rising the mouth, brushing the teeth and cleansing the tongues, and bathed in the holy river Saryu, and having gone through their morning routine of prayers etc. returns to their Shri Ram Pause 3 for the 9 days recitation Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram.